Welcome to the Hard Water Fishing Show. Jeff and Jason talk tactics, gear, and ice fishing legends.
We are alive. It's season 6, episode 13. Holy cow, second week of February, right?
It's February.
2023. Time is flying.
It is. It's getting towards the end of the season, though. You can tell.
I know, but I don't feel like we've even had like a solid season yet. So I think I'm not going to be ready for it to end. So I'm going to hang on as long as I can.
Sounds good.
Yeah. We'll see. So
I'll
tonight,
still be ice fishing for at least a month, more than a month.
We got a month left. A month left. Don't rush me. And it's starting to get lighter out, as the days wear on. But man, we just had a bout of weather come through that's going to screw things up. So
true.
Again, so we'll see. So anyway, Jeff, our preview topic tonight. Take it away.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about minnows. I mean, I use those all the time. So sometimes I feel like there's this trend against live bait, and it gets harder, with the regulations and rules and that kind of stuff. But for me, if I want confidence, I'm going to the ice with minnows.
Do you have confidence when you go out and fish?
I mean, I do.
All right.
It might be false confidence, but it's confidence anyways. But if you said, Jason, you're going fishing today, and you can't bring live bait, or Jason, you're going fishing and you can bring live bait, which way are you going to feel more confident?
I mean, okay, so you need to pick a species because that would largely determine how I felt about it.
Okay, so for me, if I'm going out and fishing for walleye without live bait, without minnows.
Before we get to that answer, what do you call a suspicious looking minnow?
I don't know. What do you call a suspicious looking minnow, Jason?
A little fishy.
I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
Anyway, back to that. What was the question?
So I said, if you're going fishing, because I think
we're losing like 1,000 listeners every time we do those jokes.
They're good. I love them. I mean, it's awesome.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about minnows because I almost always go out fishing with minnows. Unless I'm going like pan fishing, I will go out with like waxies or something. But
yeah.
But I go out almost every time with minnows.
I agree. I'm really hardwired to want to use live bait in a lot of circumstances. And I've told you, open water fishing. My brother-in-law, who will catch fish just on a twister tail, and looks at me like I'm nuts when I hook a minnow on. He's like, "That's what the twister tail is for." And I'm like, whatever. And then he catches fish without the minnow, which is a lot less work, by the way.
But you're talking open water there.
I'm talking open water.
Yes.
And could you imagine sitting there and jigging with a spoon, ice fishing, and no bait? I
mean, you can. I mean, people do it.
I know.
But to me, I would feel like I'm wasting my time.
I know.
It's
possible.
You know
what I'm wasting my time right now doing?
What?
I'm thirsty. I'm not.
Oh yeah. Well, then you better get that beverage and tell me what you got today.
All right, I have got a bottle I found in my basement.
Okay.
And I'm hoping it's still good because I'm going to be really sad. This is turkey ale brewed, courtesy of my father. It's just you guys. I don't know. You can't see it, Jeff. Maybe you can.
I can see it. It's just a brown bottle.
Just a plain brown bottle that I found in the corner of the basement.
It's quite large, though. How big is that bottle?
I don't know. It's just, there's the cup for reference.
Oh, okay. You're kind of fading into the snow bear.
There we go. Is that better?
Kinda.
It's hard to show things when you have a virtual background. But let me open this bad boy up.
Well, it's got like a champagne cork or something on it.
Yeah,
what is that thing?
It's home brewed. So. Oh no, I'm a little nervous about this one.
Did it come out as water or chunks?
No, it's not a lot of bubbles. So
oh, it's kind of a flat one.
Yeah, that one was in the basement too long.
Well, all right. So you enjoy your basement beer. And
well, I need to go get a different beer. This isn't going to work.
Okay, well, you go get a different beer while I talk about
how long those beers should stay in my basement. I found it. I set it aside because I had one left in the box, and then I don't even know how old this thing is. It's past its prime.
Does it have a born on date?
No, it should though. I don't know. I'll be back.
All right.
All right. I now know the storage life of a home brew is less than a year. So I'm back with an old standby Natural Light.
Ooh, Natty Light. Love it.
There we go. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
I mean, that's solid for ice fishing.
Yeah, that one's good yet. Okay. There we go. Sorry, that was a snafu a little bit, but, in the interest of the show, we can't open that ahead of time to check it. So I just had to roll.
All right, so I've got Local Crush. It's a Kolsch beer from 512 Brewing, which is in Texas.
Okay. You're really on the... Well, did your brother bring that one to you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're on the Texas beer tour yet.
Ooh, it's a little sour, but good.
Mine was a little sour as well, but it probably shouldn't have been.
Mine's sour in a good way, I guess.
Oh, shoot.
All right, so now that I've got a drink, I want to say cheers to our patrons. And patron of the show, Chris J. Cheers to you, Chris. Thanks for supporting the show.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, so we got a bunch of perch from our listeners, Jay. Did you see all this?
Yeah, it was the week of the perch, for sure.
And then I guess the first one, Austin B. wrote in, and we talked about the Sullivan tip downs last time.
Yes, yep.
So he had this thing called the Finicky Fooler.
And I've seen these, yeah.
So he said he likes them better than an iFish Pro. It was very interesting looking. I don't know. It's like a square piece of plastic with a flag. It's kind of like a tip-up, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, it's another... It's got a strike indicator on it. FinikyFooler.com is the website.
All right, Jordan P. Was up at the Red Door. Been there before. Mm-hmm. I was not there last weekend.
I've had this experience at the Red Door. Or not the Red Door, but Mille Lacs in general.
Got a 4-inch walleye. I've seen some of those recently. And a jumbo perch, but he said it was a super cool experience because nobody's ever been in an ice fish house before.
Yeah, it's cool. It is a lot of fun.
And Nevada Dave sent in more than one perch. Oh my gosh.
Nevada must just have some big stinking perch.
I mean, it's a bucket full of nice looking perch.
You know what's weird to me is if I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to go fishing, I don't think I'm going to go to Nevada.
Ice fishing? No.
You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
But maybe it should be.
Although Nevada Dave is from Utah.
Nevada Dave.
He fishes in Utah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the story is there, but Nevada Dave,
but fishing in Utah. Okay, all right.
But he's got a 5-gallon bucket full of perch, and some of them are nice. I mean, all of them are.
Oh, they're all edible. Absolutely.
Did you see this picture from Pete RJ?
That thing's a hog.
Pete joined the 2-pound club for perch.
2 pounds of perch. 2-pound perch. I mean, that is a righteous perch.
That perch would have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. His belly's
you see, it's like a perch reincarnation. If I was reincarnated as a perch,
I don't think this perch does not go to the gym.
Does not go to CrossFit.
No.
You look at it, and we'll put these pictures up. But when you see these pictures, you look at it on the ruler, and it just looks like, oh, it's a 13-inch perch, 14-inch perch. But when you look at it, when he has it on the scale and kind of next to him, that is just oh my gosh, that's crazy. Where was he at? Did he say where he was?
He didn't, or I didn't put it in here. I don't know which one. He didn't scribble out the background. I see mountains in the background though. It's not Iowa or Minnesota.
Well, is this still from Nevada? No, this is Pete R. Huh?
No, this is from Pete.
Yeah, I do see mountains in the background.
Yeah, so we'll post these online.
He just said from a recent fishing trip, he did not give away his location.
But he didn't do the scribbling out, which I've seen people do, because You wouldn't think so, but when we had Jason Mitchell on, you had your background on.
Yeah,
and he's like, I know
where
just where you are, right? So people can do
this
that.
guy's in the mountains. I mean, you can see mountains.
Yeah.
What I would consider mountains.
Yeah, I mean, there might be hills there.
I would not want to drag my ice shack up it, I'll tell you that much.
No.
But yeah, some really just amazing perch. Holy crap. Okay.
So then you think you're done. Like, wow, I've seen
know.
some big perch.
I've seen all the perch.
But there's another one, Jay.
Yeah, I know. So Jason R., another guy out in Utah, but he was in Idaho.
Utah Jason in Idaho.
No, Utah. What was it? It was Nevada Dave was also in Utah.
Nevada Dave was in Utah, and Utah Jason was in Idaho.
Yeah, Utah Jason was in Idaho. These guys are crossing each other on the road, all looking for fish. And he 15 inches. Holy crap.
The belly's not quite as hanging down, but it looks longer than that other one.
Well, it is. It's 50. The other one was like 13, I think. What was that one?
Wow.
I'm trying to look at the ruler. No, that one was close to...
Not quite 15. It's
not quite 15.
It's brushing 15.
But, this one, he didn't have this one on a ruler, so who knows?
No. Yeah.
But yeah, just amazing.
Well, look how big the mouth is on that perch.
Yeah, that's not a Devil's Lake perch.
No, it's a big mouth.
That guy's eating minnows.
But then look at the Pete's one. The mouth is much smaller. You can tell.
It is. See, that's a thing now to pay attention to, isn't it? Like where you're fishing perch. That was something Jason Mitchell talked about, the mouth size on perch. And depending on their habitat, what they eat. It's a clue. I think it's a clue.
It's a clue.
Mountains.
Yeah. We need to do some of that. Whoa. Yeah, because you see, so Jason, Utah Jason wasn't alone. He was out with a total of 5 guys, and they looked like they're having a good time in the mountains there. So,
yeah, that's
pile
awesome.
of perch. They're all monsters. Jeez.
And we'll put these up just under perch.
Yeah, there's lots of perch.
Smorgasbord.
I mean, I would fish for perch all the time if I could find perch like that.
2-pound perch, man, them things would fight.
Whew. They're finicky though. They are. Every perch I've ever seen is not easy to catch.
And I'm going to go back to Jason R.'s note for a minute. He said, "Love the show," which is great. Thank you so much for listening. And he did a bucket list trip to a lake in Idaho. So, the fact that you went on a bucket list trip and you crushed the fish, I think that's just amazing. So congratulations on that.
Oh, in the background, those mountains. I mean, it just looks like an awesome place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So you see the last one here, Jay. Up north kayak fishing. This is the guy who I saw walking across the lake earlier in the season, across the broken ice. And then he said, "Hey, that was me." So he fishes near the Red Door, but maybe this might have been at the Red Door. But he sent that awesome picture of a really nice Mille Lacs walleye.
That is.
It's probably I don't know. He didn't measure it, but it looks. I would say that's a 20. Not a 25, somewhere between a 20 and 25.
That's a nice looking walleye, though.
It is.
I bet that's over 20.
Yeah. He's got the cool background, like the orange sky as the sun's going down.
Yeah, it's a really nice picture.
We'll get those up. I think we fail in describing pictures on the radio.
It doesn't work. We just kind of look at it and go, "That's a nice picture," and our listeners are like, "Well, this." You realize this isn't a YouTube video, right? So we're sorry. We get caught up in it.
Okay, we better move past. Okay, so lots of good fish pictures.
Keep moving.
All right, so fishing report, Jay.
I don't have one.
Too many chores?
Yeah.
Well, you had kind of a failure, or not a failure, but you started a fishing trip. Remember when I talked to you last week?
Did
you were
I?
going to go to a place.
I was going to go fishing and ended up doing a car repair. Is that what you're talking about?
No, you were going to go there and there was no tracks.
Oh, yeah, I did.
You were as an after work? jaunt.
I was going to do a quick jump after work, and I was all ready to go, and I had like an hour of daylight. So I stopped by this little quarry pond that I had kind of scouted and earlier in the year, and I thought, okay, this is right off the highway. I'm driving by. You know, I'm dressed for work, but I got my bibs and my coat, and I'm going to roll.
And your tie.
And my tie, no tie, but dress shirt. But I get to this parking lot, and there's tracks in the parking lot, but there's one set of tracks on one of the little ponds in this area, and nothing on the main pond. And the snow had been there for a week, maybe longer. Sure. And I just thought, man, I'd never fished it in the winter. And I thought, man, and I didn't have a spud bar with me. And I just thought, I better not. Because there's, and this is near a metropolitan area, so there's no reason why somebody shouldn't have fished it.
Unless there's just no fish in it.
There's either A, no fish, or B, the ice is unsafe.
Yeah.
Right. No fish doesn't bother me, clearly. It's could it be unsafe? Is there a safety reason why people aren't fishing it? So probably won't hit that again. So yeah, I had a failed outing. And then I scouted one other place on the way back, but it was too late to jump out on the ice.
It's hard in the dark. It's hard in the dark, right? We talked about that when it gets dark.
It is. And you know what else was kind of wearing on me, and why I like a baby I didn't go out and fish is I did not have any live bait with me.
Oh.
I know. So I was going to use plastics. And so the last place I stopped right before dark, and I thought, what's the odds of me jigging in a crappie at dusk with a plastic?
Yeah.
And I left.
I
probably should have tried it. But
I know it's possible, but I
know. I just don't have the confidence.
See? I told you, it's a confidence thing. You're like,
It is. You're right. If I had a couple waxies and, you could have tried both. But, I'm just not there yet with them. So, that's the story.
I have a little
You had a much better story.
I have a little different fishing report.
I know.
I mean, it had its own bumps in the road. So we haven't caught a ton of fish this year. I've caught fish, but not a ton. We've caught a fair amount of walleyes, but the size has been questionable. So I decided early last week, I'm like, hey, we've had him on the show before. I don't remember when we had him on, but
I think season 3, wasn't it?
Must have been season 3. So Curt Quesnell, who is a guide on Lake of the Woods, North Country Outdoor Radio Guide. He used to be on the radio. And NCOR. And so I texted him just on a whim, hey, what kind of go ahead.
Season 4, episode 9.
Season 4, episode 9. So I sent Curt a message and I just said, hey, do you happen to have a weekend availability before the end of the year, right? End of the winter. And I'm thinking, he's super popular. He's on YouTube. He's not going to have an opening on the weekend, right? He might have a Wednesday or something like that, but not on the weekend. So he sends me back. He's like, well, how about this Saturday or next Saturday? And I'm like, whoa, now I have a decision to make, right?
Yeah.
I was expecting I can't go. And so I'm like, well, might as well go this weekend. Last Saturday, drove up Friday night and fished Saturday with Curt on Lake of the Woods, which is like it's the Holy Land, the Mecca, the place to go for walleye fishing, right? At least in these parts.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't without its bumps, though, because one of the reasons I wanted to go was I wanted to get Noah, my younger, he's 11, on some fish, because we haven't seen a lot of fish, and I worry about losing interest, and it's good to have a fishing buddy, but when they don't catch any fish, they get kind of lose interest, right? And the weekend before, we had struck out. So, get the setup, book, Curt, we agree, and so I'm going to drive up Friday night after Noah gets off school, and we're going to fish Saturday. So Thursday night, I get home from some sporting events to Noah puking all over the place.
Oh, that is so not good.
There's been this bug going around. It's been kind of like, I've heard people even describe it as food poisoning, right? But there's a bug going around.
You've had that before. We told that. Didn't we tell that story?
I don't know. I'm not sure. But
or you about killed everybody?
I don't see how that was my fault. We were all not sick. So, anyways,
yeah, you brought it. Anyway, go on.
It could have been you, Jason.
I've been on this ride.
So I decided that it wasn't a good parenting to like bring a recently sick child. He was doing okay, but so I had to sacrifice and go by myself because I'd already booked it. You know, I mean, you have to go. But yeah, no, I had to miss out, which was a bummer. And so we got up there. I flew up there Friday night. It's about a 5-hour drive from my house. So it's not across the street, but maybe in Jason land, that's just like across the street, like getting groceries or something. I don't know. But
I live like 10 minutes from a grocery store, Jeff.
But you and road trips, you'll be like, whatever, we'll just drive, right?
Yeah, 5 hours is like I do that sometimes just in the course of a normal work day. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's no big deal. But it's a trek for me. So we went up there, stayed up there Friday night. All I'll say is I stayed at a place that had a bed. It was quite the experience where I stayed. But anyways, I won't be going back there again. But I slept there, and I got up in the morning and we went fishing. And so I would say overall, it's what you expect from a U.S. side fishing experience on Lake of the Woods. So we caught lots of walleyes. We didn't catch the big one, right? But
no monsters, but a bunch of eaters.
Yes, no monsters, but a bunch of eaters is how I would describe it.
And that's awesome. So what were you using?
So it's always great when you learn things, one, when you go with somebody else that fishes like every day, and two, just different people in the way they fish. So he basically fishes with a jig and a minnow.
Just a standard, like what we'd mainly use for open water.
Yes, just nothing fancy, just a minnow, fairly heavy because we were in like 25 feet of water, but just, I mean, basically a hook and a minnow. I mean, it has a jig head on there. He did have one rattle, like a rattle bait that he caught a bunch on. But he said he had to be convinced to start using that, right? Some guy brought it up and he's like, who needs that? And then, we're catching fish, so you use it with a fish bite on. But I caught all mine on a jig and a minnow.
What color jig?
He said, I don't even remember. It didn't matter. It was like yellow or pink, but it's
just a standard jig.
I mean,
cheap, 98 cents for 5 of them at the store.
Yeah, I mean, what he said is Lake of the Woods fish are stupid. They're dumber than your average fish. So
we've not had all that experience every year.
I know, but that's the way he described it. So, up there, I'm not going to say the lure doesn't matter because that's not exactly it. But if the fish are hungry and you have a jig with a minnow on it, they're going to hit it. Is basically what it comes down to. Are there other things that might perform better? Maybe you would catch a bigger one, but at the end of the day, you'd see them. The aggressive fish would come up and just whack your bait, right? And then the other ones, the way he described it was they have their nose to the dirt. Like you can almost see it. So, when you have live scope, you can see a lot of things.
Sure.
And you can almost see the fish swim by with their nose down, like digging in the dirt. Like they could care less what you have going on, right? They're not active fish. They're not going to bite your line.
If their nose in the dirt, are they looking for bugs and stuff?
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, so they're just on a different pattern, right? They're not probably caught more saugers than walleyes, to be honest. But I learned to identify the two because you don't see very many saugers anywhere else. But yeah, so it was a good day of fishing. I mean, we caught a bunch of fish, nothing big. I did get to use, as part of going with a guide, I got to use his live scope.
Okay, that's awesome.
So all day long, now I'm ruined. I mean, all day long, he used my Helix 7 and I used live scope. And I'm like, this is just, you can see the fish, Jason, whether they're facing you or sideways. Like you can watch them turn and like you can see the fins, like, you can see the fins. I mean, not like see it like, we can see it like Atari see it, right? I mean, it's not like a picture, but you can tell the orientation of the fish.
Is there kind of a delay?
It didn't seem like there was a delay to me. Okay. If there is, my brain didn't register it.
Sure.
It seemed pretty fast. Like I said, you could tell the fish that were nose down into the dirt. You could see that they were like angled into the dirt. So yeah, live scope was cool. I didn't see a sturgeon, but I saw a sturgeon swim by in live scope.
How big was that thing?
It took up the whole screen. So like, wow. You got your jig, and you maybe see like a nice 14-inch walleye. It's bigger than your jig. And then your whole screen fills up with a fish that swims by, and that's a sturgeon.
You need to bring your ball of worms with you.
I know. You could. We saw it. I mean, he's never caught one up there, but they're up there. He's like, I see one, not every day swim by, but I see one often.
That'd be a tip up with a ball of worms just sitting outside.
But it was like a 5-footer. Like you could tell, like it was just the whole screen. And it's not like a Vexlar where you're like, is that a fish or not a fish? No. This was a giant, long, like 5-foot fish that drove that swim.
Could have been a northern. How do you know it was a sturgeon?
It was like 5 feet. You could tell, like it was so big.
Just
and it was right
too ridiculously big to be a northern.
Yes. So that was pretty cool. I've always been kind of like, and of course, when you go with the guide, they have everything set up, so it's nice. But I've been a little worried about all this stuff. But the way he had it set up, I had 2 holes, and then the live scope was in the middle, so I could see both of my jigs.
Okay.
And that's all I used. You can use a flasher too, but like I just use live scope, and
sure,
I would do. I mean, now I want one, of course, but I mean, I don't know how that would.
I fully support you getting one.
And so he had hummingbird, so I'm used to hummingbird stuff, so maybe that made more sense to me. But
so he had, is it the Mega Live then?
I think Mega Live it's the hummingbird version of.
So that's Mega Live.
Mega Live. It's the hummingbird
which is
version.
Different than live scope.
Yeah, they all kind of work the same, I think.
There's some differences, but yeah.
He said his doesn't have a zoom, and one of them has a zoom.
But if he's in the hummingbird ecosystem for his boat, then you got to be in the hummingbird for your ice stuff, or just
he is in the hummingbird ecosystem. That is what he likes. So he was like, when I brought my Helix 7, he's like, "Oh, this works great." He knew exactly how to use it. He didn't use the flasher on the 7 though. He just uses the 2D.
Really?
Yeah. So a couple other things I learned from him that was different. So he kept his reel drag very tight. Much stronger than I usually keep mine.
Okay.
Now he uses the same line setup that I do with I have braid. He had, I don't know what brand it was. I think he said Fireline, but a braid and then a small swivel sinker.
Yep.
And then he uses mono because he said in a stained lake, like Lake of the Woods, the fish can't see it like they can in like a clear lake, like Mille Lacs, right?
Okay.
So he's like, the line isn't as big of a deal. The fish aren't as line shy because they can't see it. But he said that line is so strong that he just sets the line, the drag tight, and just force them in.
He must be using a pretty solid mono then, like pound test wise.
Yeah, he said it was just like 8 pound, I think.
Okay.
So, but he's like, I never lose any fish by breaking lines. It's like, And
I like to hear the drag go though.
I do too, and I kind of. I didn't bring my rods, so I just used his. But yes, I think I would set my looser. But it was just interesting to see how different people do it. And he's a guide, so
yeah,
he fishes 10,000 times better than me. So
yeah. I'm not questioning. I'm just curious.
Well, I just like to see different things. Like you get to see how different people do it, and So I mean, it was a great day. We caught fish. I brought home 4. I mean, I could have brought home my limit, but. I mean, it was enough, and 4 nice fish, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was a great day. He had
I'm a little jealous. I'm not gonna lie.
I know. I would be too. It was awesome, and maybe we'll go back again because I kind of promised Noah we need to go back. But he has a tracked S10 Blazer from like the 90s. That's how you get out there.
That's pretty sweet.
So it's pretty cool.
Pretty comfortable ride. How far out was he fishing?
Not very far, and we were by a bunch of other shacks. There's not much snow out there this year. Down the way from us was a dual axle wheelhouse with a 1-ton dually sitting next to it. I mean, you could drive anywhere you wanted to dare, I guess.
But that was his spot.
That was his spot. That's his spot. I mean, he's like, he also said, There's tons of ice fishing houses out there. And he's like, but they're all empty. He's coming here on a Tuesday, and they're just empty ice fishing shacks. Like, that's when the fishing's the best because there's nobody up here. But even that day, it wasn't like there was a lot of ice houses around us, but there weren't people in them.
There weren't people. They're just up there, and they get there once in a while.
Yeah. But they do have, he's at a Long Point. There's a resort right next to it. And you can leave your ice shack there for $1 a day. So you can like drag my wheelhouse up there and leave it parked there. And then it's just there. And then you pay $1 a day, and then you don't have to tow it back and forth.
Huh.
So
that's interesting.
So maybe my ice shack could go up there for a while. So like, because they're expensive to tow because the gas is expensive and stuff. So yeah,
you can leave it on the ice for $1. I mean, why would it cost you to leave it on the ice?
Well, it's on the road. I don't know, but yeah, it was on the ice. I don't know. That's how it works. I'm not sure.
Weird.
Yeah, so it was a good day. We caught some fish. No trophies, but
you got fishing, and you caught fish. And
I put my line down the first time I caught a fish, so,
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I thought you might get skunked because it's you.
I mean, when you take a guide and he goes out there every day, he's probably going to be on the spot where you want to be.
He probably knows where the fish live.
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder how many fish he's pulled through the hole in that spot.
Oh my gosh!
How many times those fish have been caught?
Yeah,
they're trained fish.
They're trained fish.
They have to sacrifice 4 of their brothers every time. Keep the minnows flowing.
All right, so quick show business here, Jay. The best place to interact with us on social media is Instagram and Facebook. You can see us on our website, hardwatershow.com. We have YouTube where we post all of our stuff from the show. You can get a video there, and then you can email us at hardwatershow@gmail.com.
Absolutely. And we love to hear from you guys. I love seeing the fish pictures because I don't get to take many of my own lately.
For sure. All right. Gear. A couple gear things, Jay.
Yeah.
And Curt uses these rods, and he's kind of semi-sponsored by them, so he uses them because he represents them a bit. But I use this rod. It's from Limit Creek.
Okay.
But they're really economical because, I bought that new rod this year that was like the tuned-up custom that was like $115 or something, right? So this rod was pretty nice. It seemed, I wouldn't call it custom, but it was like, I looked at Amazon there, $23.
That's cheap. Holy crap.
And it seemed better than an ugly stick to me because that's what I kind of use a lot is those ugly sticks. So I actually really liked it. So I don't know, just figured I'd talk about it because I used it all day and it worked great. I mean, I caught a ton of walleyes with it. So if you're ever looking for a economical alternative to a ugly stick, this is, I would say, a better quality, same price point. It's not, it's graphite rod, cork handle. I mean, it's pretty standard, but ugly stick is going to be a fiberglass, and this is graphite, so
yeah,
a little more sensitive.
No, that's cool. So. That's cool.
All right, topic time, Jay.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Minnows.
Let me know when you're ready to start.
You can start.
You didn't get the pun there, the minnow.
Let
me know. Yeah,
let me know. Oh, I didn't get it,
know?
Dude. It went right over my head.
Man,
I'm like, why isn't he talking? Why is he talking about when you let me know?
Yeah. Well, let's see. So we are going to talk about minnows, and Jeff and I were talking the other day about this and just the some of the regional differences in what you can get for bait for minnows. Like here in Iowa, we have rosy reds. Jeff, I don't know if you get any of those.
I don't even know what a rosy red is.
It looks like a long, skinny goldfish. I mean, it's that kind of goldfishy color. At least that's what it looks like to me. But it's a minnow, and they use them for crappies a lot. Sometimes walleyes down here, but crappies for sure.
So how big is a rosy red? Like if I think about,
it's a lot like it's a little bigger than a crappie minnow, a little smaller than a robust fathead.
Okay. So kind of a good utility player, right? Because
it is, but it's an odd color.
Well, it could be good. I don't know. Well, we don't get those in Minnesota, and you can't import them, so I guess maybe that's why.
But you can put them in your aquarium when you're done with them. They're kind of a nice little minnow.
Feed them some goldfish flakes and have a pet.
Yeah. It's a native. Yeah, it's an American. You can Google it. Rosy red minnows.
So those are pretty common in an Iowa bait shop.
Yeah, they're very common in some of the bait shops, at least in our area. Very common thing. And took me a while to catch on to that. People will be saying, "Oh, we're catching them on rosy reds." I'm like, "What in the heck is that?" But
well, there's almost a hierarchy of minnows, right?
There is.
I mean, if we start at the bottom, let's start at the bottom.
Start at the bottom, work our way up.
So the bottom of the minnow hierarchy is a crappie minnow, right?
The lowly crappie minnow.
I mean, it's just the smallest ones, and they come by the scoop. When you buy crappie minnows, you get a scoop or a half a scoop.
And I always thought like a crappie minnow was, and it is, like a crappie minnow is not, like that's not the kind of minnow, but that's...
It's not a crappie. No, it's for fishing for crappies, I guess.
Yeah. But they're referred to as crappie minnows, even though it's just a minnow. I mean, I suppose it has some sort of a
I don't
name.
know. But I mean, you would use them for sunfish or smaller fish.
Yeah, they're just a real... I don't know, how big are they?
They're small. I mean, they're the smallest. If they were any smaller, you couldn't get them on your hook sometimes.
Yeah, you cannot put them on a regular-sized jig hook very well.
You will impale them. It's just...
Yeah, it looks odd to kind of give people an idea of how big they are.
But I think I'd be curious to see if anybody that listens doesn't know what a crappie minnow was, or if they call the smallest minnow you can buy something else.
Something else. Let us know if it's not called a crappie minnow.
I mean, I've never heard of a perch minnow.
I have not. Yeah. That is a good point. You catch perch on crappie minnows.
Yes. Yep. I mean, you can catch anything. I mean, I've caught northerns, I've caught walleyes, I've caught sunfish. I've caught everything on a crappie minnow, but yeah. So then next, it sounds like rosy reds is what you were talking about, Jay, right?
Yeah, I would say a rosy red would be next in the size orientation.
Just a little bit bigger than a crappie minnow.
Yeah.
And you use those for panfish again, kind of a crappie minnow?
No, they catch crappies on them and they catch walleyes on them.
So then the next hierarchy up, I think, is the fathead, right?
Yeah, I think we'd go to the fathead minnow.
But I don't even know what a fathead minnow is. I mean, I walk in and get fatheads and I use them for walleyes, but I don't know what it is.
It's a fathead minnow. They always got the fathead minnows, to describe them. They always have like a bumpy snout.
Yeah.
Right? They always have a bumpy snout on them.
They're just a little bit bigger than a crappie minnow, though. I mean, not a lot bigger.
They've got an aggressive forehead. That's why they're called a fathead.
Oh, sure. They also, their will to live is high. So crappie minnows and fathead, the will to live is very high. If that's a rating, I would rate them high.
I would too.
I don't know what about the rosy reds? What's their?
They're reasonably durable.
Okay.
Yeah, reasonably durable. Fathead minnow has a blunt, rounded snout, rounded fins, and a dusky stripe along the side, and a spot at the base of a tail fin, according to the Missouri Department of Conservation.
In crappie minnows, crappies and fatheads, I've forgotten about them in my garage for a couple days.
Oh yeah.
But then they're fine. They've lived. In
my
garage. Oh yeah. In my bait bucket, sure, they'll live a couple days. Even without
Depends
a
on
bubbler.
the oxygen temperature. Oxygen and the temperature.
Yeah, not in the summer. I'm talking ice fishing season.
In the summer, you're sad.
Yeah. All right, so then above the fathead, I think we're talking shiners now. This is like in Minnesota, we have shiners. Their will to live is 0.
Now, there's two different types. There's a golden shiner and a regular shiner, isn't there?
I usually see the regular shiners.
Yeah, golden shiners is a thing as well.
And they'll call them spot tail shiners. I think there's a spot tail shiner too. But usually this time of year they start to get hard to find, the shiners.
Yeah.
So I found a new bait shop by my house, Jay, which doesn't happen very often. But they informed me that bait gets delivered on Thursdays.
Okay.
And if you don't get bait until you go up for the weekend, you will not get shiners because they will be gone.
Wow.
So you have to get bait on Thursday because that's when the bait gets delivered.
So do you get regular shiners or golden shiners?
I think they're regular shiners. The ones I usually get are regular. They're silver. And when I was a kid, the shiners used to be giant. I mean, they were big, but the shiners I get now are much smaller.
I tell you, the bait shop which is not really a bait shop, it's a gas station that carries bait up the road for me, has had some super aggressive, like feisty shiners that have a will to live.
Oh.
And there's a lot of times you get shiners and they have no will to live.
I mean, you're almost not out the door of the bait shop and they're
you
dead.
Can barely get to the lake and they're floating. And these ones, like I had shiners from this bait shop here, Jeff, that I kept alive in a bucket for a while.
Oh, very nice.
Like in my basement because they live so well.
I recently got some small shiners. I really like those because sometimes the shiners can be a bit aggressive. And if you have late biting fish, too much. So.
Yeah, it's too much for them.
So yes, low will to live. They are very sought after.
Very low will to live.
But they're very sought after. I mean, you will go to a bait shop, they will almost always have fat heads, and it's very common for them not to have shiners.
And very uncommon for people not to have crappie minnows either.
Yes.
Now, our bait shop up the road that I told you about, the gas station, they do not have fat heads. I have a hard time getting fat heads around here. I can get crappie minnows, I can get rosies, and I can get chubs.
Chubs? Is that the next level after shiners?
I don't know. Chubs versus suckers.
So I think of suckers as being big.
So creek chubs are big as well. I get these creek chubs.
Like, are you talking like they're like 4 inches?
Yes.
Okay.
2 to 4 inches.
Wow.
And they are, they have a strong will to live, which is nice. They do really well. But they are big. We fished with them when we were trying to catch, a couple weeks ago. And we toted them things around 2 different weekends.
Yeah.
Same group of chubs, creek chubs, and they never died. I was considering filleting a couple. They didn't catch fish either.
So what kind of fish?
I don't know if they were down there fighting them off or what.
So like shiners I would use for walleyes. What kind of fish are you catching with a creek chub?
Northern.
Okay, yeah.
Northern, yeah, and catfish. So I cut a few of them up trying to catch catfish on them.
And that's when you started thinking about filleting them?
Yes. Like, there's a lot of meat on these things. Like a sardine.
So it sounds like a creek chub and a sucker minnow are very similar. I find that sometimes, though, in Minnesota, they will call a sucker minnow a light pike. I've heard them called light pike before.
Yes. Yep, light pike. And then
And you would use those for tip-ups, right? I mean, we're talking tip-ups for northerns. I don't think I'd use one for a walleye, really. Maybe a small one. Small one?
Yeah, light pike are for tip-ups.
Yeah.
And that is, I think it's a sucker minnow, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure, because the mouth is on the bottom and it like...
I don't know why they call them a light pike. But
I don't either, but I'm always confused because I'm like, what's a light pike? I mean, that's what I'm trying to catch.
We're not dropping a lot of knowledge right now.
But then they have the biggest one I know of that they sell at a bait shop typically is a decoy.
They call them a decoy.
For spear fishing.
Yep.
Because it is a decoy. You're not intending on angling a fish with a line. You're intending on putting that... Because they're big. They're like 6 inches. I mean, they're huge.
Yeah, they're aggressively sized.
And they
literally their job is to be a decoy. They go down there and they kind of swim around. And they're so big that the northern has to size them up before they chew on them. There's a pause in which you can spear the northern.
Oh, we missed one, Jay, in the hierarchy.
What did we miss?
What about rainbows?
Oh, rainbows.
They're probably more like They're
like in that rosy red and fat head.
Yes, a rainbow is in like a fathead, or I'm sorry, a rosy red.
Rainbows.
Yeah.
Rainbow minnows.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that's...
And then you get the sicklebacks in there.
Oh, yeah, that's just an accident. They poke you and it hurts.
You're just really sad. And if your buddy ever asks you to bait his fish, you put a sickleback on there because you always get them. You always get them with fatheads, usually.
Although there was a time where I would get them all the time, probably 5 years ago, and I haven't seen one for a while. So I don't know.
I had some last year.
I haven't seen one for years.
They are not good for bait.
No.
They end up in... They have spikes on them.
Yeah, they hurt.
Ever seen them? They have a spike on their back.
And
it's really a Minnesota fish, I think, kind of looking at the internets.
And the fish, in general, people don't believe
well,
fish.
Maybe they're in Colorado, too. What's that?
In general, people believe fish don't like them because they spike them when you catch it.
Well, yeah, I would think that a walleye would just be offended by you trying to eat one of those.
So I think that's what I know, although we did get some feedback from our listeners, Jay.
All right. Let's see what that is.
So I wish Facebook wouldn't just give me the most relevant.
Facebook's been really irritating lately, but...
So David Anthony said crappie minnows with a split shot. He jigs them on a 32nd ounce jig and a split shot 8 inches from that. So pretty standard. He didn't say what he fishes for them, but I'm assuming it's panfish. And then, did you see Charlie Darmer sent us a video?
He did. You'll have to, yeah, on how to hook a minnow.
Yeah. So yeah, he did that, which I thought was pretty cool.
Two guys are fishing rosy reds, Eric and Nathan.
Yeah.
And rosy red on a small gold or red hook, split shot 6 inches up to a foot up, and a small bobber, straight dead sticking, smokes a perch and crappie. I need to get back to using bobbers more.
Yeah, I had this conversation about bobbers with Curt because he told me he knew, or once you're in the industry, you know everybody, but the Ice Buster bobbers, he kind of knew. I don't know if that guy was from up there or he was around that area, but whoever invented those. And so he said he used to use them all the time. But I think if you think about bobbers, we use them a lot more pre-electronics, like before we had flashers.
We've always had flashers.
No, we haven't.
When we fished together for the last 20 years.
But I don't use them as much because I can just use my flasher to see what's going on.
See, I think I've stopped using them as much when I got more sensitive rods.
Because you see the rod tip go down instead of the bobber.
Exactly. Yeah, you're using the spring bobber or the sensitive kind of noodly rod.
I don't dislike bobbers. I think, what I dislike is the futziness of the bobber stop.
The bobber stop that gets stuck on the end of the rod.
Yeah, and then you got to reset it all the time.
Yep, but I agree with that.
It's still effective, though. I would never discourage somebody from using a bobber.
I would not either. And in fact, I think it can give some really unique jigging action with a spoon on.
What, do you stand in the ice and jump up and down and see if the water...
No, when you jig, if your bobber is just enough to keep above, right? Mm-hmm. So it's right size to the hook, to the lure. Then as you lift up and jig, when it hits the bottom of that jig, it'll pull that bobber down. So it'll have a little bit of a slow up at the bottom of the jig. I think that can be a unique action that can trigger a bite.
See, I think the bobber, and we're on bobbers now a little bit, but...
That's okay.
I notice, if I think about when we use bobbers, if you use a light one, like those Ice Buster ones are the ones that I really were using
absolutely.
For the very long time, because you can snip off the foam and make it just right to what you need to do. But when you get those really finicky walleyes, they don't really feel the bobber. So you have line out, and they take the bait and they go with it, and you'll let that bobber go under...
All the way under the ice.
Right. And so they don't have any resistance, very little resistance at that point.
Correct.
And so you can get those ones that you're with a jig and you miss them because they hit it and you feel it. You might get that fish. Maybe.
So what a bobber lets you do, to your point and to what I'm trying to make is you can sit there and jig,
yes,
with a bobber on, and then you can let it sit for a minute, and something can take it with no resistance. So that setup has some versatility to it that a non-bobber setup doesn't, because if you jig, you're done jigging, you have your rod in a rod holder. Unless you have a really, really noodly tip, as soon as that fish takes that dead stick without a bobber, it's got resistance.
And I think you could argue that, and I know we've veered off on this a little bit, but you could argue...
It's our show. We can veer if we want.
Wait, that's right. You can. So there's those bait feeder reels and, the noodle tip rods and that kind of stuff. But really, if you think about where we came from, you can go buy any rod you want. The sensitivity doesn't matter, right? And you can use that bobber. You don't need a $200 rod to use a bobber, right? I mean,
no, the bobber gives you the sensitivity,
right? I mean, you've got a $1.29 bobber, and that's what solves inflation now, so probably $3 bobber. But but you've got that bobber, and it's really a very economical setup compared to all the other things you have to do to kind of reproduce that same kind of environment. Either
absolutely,
with a bait feeder.
I'm sitting here convincing myself that I need to stop being lazy and use bobbers more.
Yeah,
because I've kind of stopped using them, and maybe I need to get back to it.
But for your dead stick, I mean, you can still jig. You can use two rods, jig with one, and leave that bobber on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so thanks to Nathan for bringing up the bobber thing. So, and then the last one, Edward S. said, match the hatch.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm not sure how you match a minnow hatch, but
yeah, I mean,
and ice fishing.
I'm not sure either. I'm not trying to say Edward is wrong, but
Edward, we maybe need some clarification from you, buddy.
Well,
tell me how we match the hatch ice fishing.
And so, Edward, I want you to listen to the show. I appreciate your input.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
I mean it in all seriousness.
We had some recent expert fishing people on that kind of didn't believe in match the hatch.
That is true, but that doesn't
mean it's wrong. But yes. So, but I would be curious what matching the hatch on minnows is. What you would I'd like to dig into that.
Yeah, I'd like to know that.
Yeah. So
we used to, when we were kids, and maybe you still do this, Jeff. I don't know. I do sometimes. Like this is open water more, but even ice fishing is after when you finally catch one. Right. We'd always look at the stomach contents.
Yes.
To see what's up. What are things eating?
Yes. I've done that before.
Mm-hmm.
So. Well, cool. So minnows, I very rarely go ice fishing without a minnow, Jay.
How do you hook them? So like Eric talked about a rosy red minnow, he tail hooks it on a small 5mm teardrop for crappie.
I've kind of moved this around. This is something I've played with a lot very recently. I used to always just go through the back. All the way through, under the dorsal fin, you just hook your hook in there because it's meaty and you won't lose your bait.
Yep.
But Charlie had a different way where he kind of hooks it up towards the front, right, that he showed, but not all the way through, just kind of get it in the side, not all the way through the meat to keep the minnow alive. And I've seen that a lot more. And I've done them in the back too, but I think I'm kind of on the front because a lot of people say a lot of times when the fish eats the minnow, it eats it from the head.
Which is why minnow heads seem to work better than tails.
And if you put your hook at the tail and the fish hits the head and misses, no fish.
I know.
So.
But I think sometimes it's the action you want, right? You hook them on the tail and they will wiggle a little bit more than they will, depends on where you hook them.
If that's what you're looking for.
If that's what you're looking for.
And then there's the stories you hear about. You get people that don't know how to fish, and they hook them really wacky way. And
they hook them weird, and they
catch more fish than everybody else.
I know. Sometimes you just never know what them darn fish want. This might sound like a dumb thing, but for whatever reason, I just connected this year when fishing with minnow heads. Like when you don't want to use the whole minnow.
Yeah.
And you might think I'm an idiot for not connecting the dots.
I probably do, but I don't know if it has to do with fishing or minnows.
Yeah, I know, right? But like forever, I have taken the minnow out of the minnow bucket, pinched the tail off, and hooked the minnow head on.
Yeah.
So this year, I started hooking the minnow on, and then pinching the tail off. And boy, is that easier.
Oh, it's just easier.
It's easier because the minnow is, so if you pinch the tail off,
yeah,
you have a head you're trying to fumble with cold fingers to try to hook on a hook.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you hook the minnow and then pinch the tail,
yeah, okay.
You're ready to go. It's okay. I see you haven't considered this either.
No, I haven't.
I don't know where I picked up on that from somebody's YouTube video or something this year. I don't remember where, or who, or how, but I saw that and I'm like, well, you idiot, Jason. That would be easier. So think about when we're fishing with frozen minnows up at Ron's.
Ooh, yeah, that gets kind of funky.
Yeah, it does, but you're right. You're taking this slimy, kind of mushy minnow, you're holding it, and you're trying to pinch the tail off and then hook the head on.
Yeah.
But if you hook the head on and then just pinch the tail off.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's way easier to handle, and it seems like why am I just thinking about this now? But I just thought I'd share, and so I'm a humble guy, and so I thought I'd share my late in life epiphany with the world. So if I help somebody here today, like apparently I've helped you, Jeff, because you didn't think of it either.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I mean it's just like, duh, that's easier.
It is.
It is.
It is.
Just change your world.
Well, and I start to use my scissors for my line cutters to cut the minnows.
Oh, you're cutting the minnow. Give them a clean cut.
Well, when you're out fishing,
you got to keep that thumbnail just a little longer, Jeff.
I know, but then the minnow guts get underneath there, and you go home, and all you smell is minnow guts.
You pinch with the right hand, eat with the left hand.
Yeah. Well, and
don't use the same hand that you pinch minnows with to eat the Pringles.
Yeah, exactly. But we didn't even talk about, and I guess now we can't bring any minnows to Canada. But
no, you got to get them all there.
But before you couldn't bring live minnows to Canada, but you could bring dead ones.
Yes.
So we would bring frozen dead ones, and they worked. I mean,
just as good.
But they get kind of skunky and nasty.
Oh man, they thaw. And then they just, they weren't delightful at all.
But it's what you had because we had to bring minnows, and so sometimes them being alive isn't always necessary.
Correct. Well, we used salted minnows. They were really good.
Yeah, but they were gross, and they
were super gross.
They get slimy. You get a bag full of nasty minnows.
Yeah, you're just looking through. You're kind of feeling through the slime to see if there's one more left.
Gross.
Yeah, moving on. Now we've given you some good visuals.
All right, so I think that's an in-depth minnow review.
Yeah.
And I don't think minnows get talked about much in fishing. Like if you watch YouTube videos, they will fish with the minnow, but they won't talk about the minnow very much.
No, they don't.
And I think because there's no company selling minnows. There's companies selling jigs.
That's a really good point. Nobody has a minnow like a nationwide. Well, and the reason that is they're all, you have to get them local.
Yes.
In each state kind of has, you can't import minnows from out of state, right? Like I can't legally bring minnows from Iowa to Minnesota, is my understanding.
Right. That is true. Yeah, you can't import them. But you think about like when you watch a fishing show, most of them will say, "I'm using my X jig with my X plastic," and if you see a minnow on there, they don't really talk about it very often.
No, they don't talk about the minnow.
So, and I get it. That's just the way it is. But I think that's why people don't talk about minnows because
it's just a minnow.
It's just a minnow, but it's more than just a minnow, right? They're different kinds. So,
what else we got?
I think I did have a legend It's from
Awesome.
Curt. It's from Curt, and I won't tell it very well because Curt has the best radio voice you will ever hear.
You didn't get him to record it?
I forgot.
Get him on the phone,
but
man.
Jason, when you're fishing, I
know.
I got live scope in front of me and I'm catching fish, and I'm like,
Curt, tell the story.
I know. So
Not
he told me
you.
the story, and hopefully Curt doesn't mind me using it, but he told me. So, so he was fishing, which he does like every day. Had his rod, and he caught a fish. There was a fish on the line, and somehow the rod went down the hole with the fish on it.
Okay.
So I don't think it wasn't that he was paying attention. I think it got kicked in, or there's some excitement or something, right? And the rod went down the hole with the fish attached. Like, while he was catching a fish, the rod disappeared down the hole. So there it is. It's gone. So then he has live scope. A few days later, he's like, I can see my fishing pole down there on the live scope. He's like, that's a fishing pole at the bottom of the lake. So he, you put a big jig on there, you get the fishing pole out of there. He was able to catch it and get it back up the hole, right? And the fish was still on there, and he caught the fish.
No kidding.
I mean,
that's awesome.
So then he had it all on video, all this on video.
Okay.
And he accidentally deleted it.
Oh, no.
Like, he edited it, and then, like, somehow the footage got lost, and it never
That's
did be
so
seen again.
sad. That's a really great story, though.
I know. And Curt would tell it 1,000 times better than I did, but
obviously.
But he'll be listening to this in this ice shack going, what did Jeff do? But anyways, it was a good legend, and I thought I'd share it. So
that's awesome.
It's a secondhand legend, really, because I wasn't there for it. It's more of a tale, but...
Yeah, well, and we would still encourage folks to send us your legends. We were able to play the fellow that sent us one, so...
Yep. And you can see Charlie Darmer on the comments here. If you go on Facebook, he will tell you how he hooks his minnows. He's got a video out there, so check that out.
Yeah, good video. Sometimes just the video is way better than us trying to explain it.
And I noticed he's in his wheelhouse. He's got his guitar behind him, and he's showing us how to hook a minnow. So it was pretty cool.
Do you think he just made that video for us?
I don't know. It kind of looked like he did, but...
That's so awesome.
It seems kind of unrealistic that he just had a minnow video in his back pocket ready to post on Facebook.
You never know, but awesome if you did. Charlie, thank you so much for that. That's pretty cool.
He's awesome. We got to have him on the show again, along with Curt and 10 other people that are super awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jay, I think we're at that time.
All right, Jeff. Well, thanks everybody for listening tonight. Tight lines.
Cheers.
5. You've been listening to the Hard Water Fishing Show with Jeff and Jason.
Say goodbye.
One of the most unique podcasts on the planet, where we talk about tactics, gear, and ice fishing legends. We'll be back soon.
Bye-bye.
Till then, signing off.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.